I'm live. We're live. And it's our anniversary. How awesome is that? Our first year. Can you believe it? I'm just going to do a quick thing. I'm just going to say hello over here in the comments. Hey, everyone. Welcome. All right. Here's the deal. My bright idea today is based on a couple of things that have been happening recently. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to get down to serious business here. One glove off, one glove on. That way you get to hear from Abby and Mom. Oh God, my poetry is as bad as my singing. Okay, so this has been a year. 1 year ago, my first video was on the 30th of November. And I said to myself, and then I said to you, I'm going to do my level best to always be here Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesday, by my language, and Thursday at 10 o'clock. Why? Because it's a break. It's a break in the middle of the day. It's a coffee break. It's a whatever break. It is a chance to take a step back. That's if you're watching me actually live. It's a chance to take a step back before the next the next dip in the roller coaster ride. And I think doing things like that is really important. Now, when I started out, the episodes were very short, and then they got very long. And now I'm realizing something important, and that is, instead of trying to talk about 5 things, all of which I can see the threads to and from, if I just talk about one, it's something that is easier probably to take away. It's easier to focus on, and it gives me a lot more material the next time, right? So it's a work in progress. We are all a work in progress. And the thing I wanted to talk about today, because we are at a crossroads, is what we're going to do for the next year, for the next 100 and something episodes. How are we going to shape this to make it work for us? So I was having a conversation with my very good friend, Carol Hay, the other day. And she said, and so my very good friend, Carol Hay, and I predate You Can't Live on Television. When that show came to be, she was hired to coach all the kids because of her extraordinary training. She reached out when they needed to audition for a mom. And I said, I don't actually work with children. And she said, sure you do. All actors are children, and some are taller than others. And she said, besides, it doesn't matter how silly it looks. Nobody's going to see it. It's only in Ottawa. And it pays well. And what else were you doing? So I found her very difficult to argue with, and I went along and I met him, and the story is now kind of legend that he really was reluctant, the producer, to spend significant, important time with an adult when he would much rather be focusing on the kids. But the powers that be had said, you need to find an actress to play the mom. Do it. So he basically said to himself, well, she doesn't seem that objectionable. What's the worst that can happen? And here we are. So there is something that I learned to do a long time ago, and I didn't know that I'd learned it. And I think this is probably true for a lot of people whose families are nomadic. Either they're in trouble with the law, or they work in the military, or they work in the foreign service, or they, in some way, shape, or form, the significant breadwinner in the family is transferred a lot. And so up you get, off you go, have a seat, carry on, over and over and over. So we learn to do a couple of things as self-defense mechanisms. The first thing we learn to do is respond quickly. Yesterday, I was with my friend at the hospital, and alarmingly, somebody came in and said, we're moving you. What? Okay, where? Down the hall. because they have to work construction on this room. So you immediately are looking around the room, and I'm thinking, why do I don't care. And I said, all right, when? And she said, now. And I said, oh, okay. Can you give me 5 minutes? Sure. So I helped my friend organize and pack up everything, and off we went and into the new room. And I efficiently unpacked and put everything sort of the way it was in the previous room. And like 10 minutes later, the nurse came in and said, wow, looks like you've been here forever. And I said, it's a mark of a military brat. Unpack as fast as you can. Maybe they won't make you move again. So that's my consistency. That's one of my flexible consistencies, in that whenever I'm told the rules have changed, the game has changed, the path has shifted, I want to know. And so what do I need to do? I want to know that now, so that as we have to move forward, I'm already in forward motion. My dad, who taught me how to play tennis, said to me, the minute you step on the tennis court, you always have to have your weight on the balls of your feet. And I said, why? And he said, because when something comes at you, if all of your weight is back on the heels of your feet, you need to register that this is the wrong way to be, and have your brain tell your body, your feet, to move into the ready position. Okay, and that happens very quickly, but not fast enough if the thing that's coming at you is coming at you with speed. If, on the other hand, you're already on the balls of your feet, all you have to do is raise your shield and get out your sword. You're already in the right stance. Good morning, Charles. I am on early, and I'm sorry about that. The reason is that I have to go and run an errand and see my friend in the hospital. So I'm talking today about readiness, consistency, and stubbornness. And I'm using it as our happy anniversary introduction to, not the opposites, the introduction to what I think we're going to be doing next, what we're going to be leaning into next for the next year of videos. So my dad always said, if you're already ready, physically, energetically, then the only thing your brain has to do is concentrate on the strategy. So on the tennis court, cat has to have a CT scan. Oh, okay, and need blood work. Oh, ugh. So everything about readiness is not necessarily obsessive compulsion. It is planning. It is planning ahead for the plan B. People forget the plan B. And then when plan A goes zert, there is no plan B. I mean, there is, but we didn't unpack it yet. Whose fault was that? Belongs to me. So everything about consistency and readiness can look like stubbornness, because it appears that we are putting our thumbprint on everything that's happening. We are making it work for us. And if we are stubbornly doing that, if we are intending to do that, I'm planning the move in January, so I have to be ready. Yes, you do. Exactly. And so when you are looking at not necessarily the worst case scenarios, because a lot of times you can't even imagine them. Instead, when you look at the way we normally are, and the comfort, lazy, routine habits we enjoy, our status quo, it's really good when we have time to plan ahead and you already know where you're going, to spend some time talking, mapping out where you're going to put your things. I always have this you know what? See you later, Mom. I have this thing when I move. In order for me to relax and not feel overwhelmed by all the boxes, I always clear one room completely. I put something, furniture, something, a TV, I put something facing no clutter. And when I need to take a break from unpacking or lifting or moving, I go and sit in that spot where there is nothing that looks unfinished and I give myself permission to sit there for a minute, maybe have a coffee, maybe just breathe, the nice deep breaths, and stare at no work to be done. And I allow myself to say, this is going to be what everything looks like soon. And that restores my balance. It restores my sense of, we got this. It allows me to smile because it allows me to smile. I'm not in denial. I know what's behind me, but I don't have to look at it. Quite often, I do one room where I could sit. I also do my bedroom so that when I go to bed, I don't see unfinished business all around me. So this business about consistency and readiness and stubbornness is this. The definition of success is consistent action repeated over time. Consistent action repeated over time. It doesn't have to be excellence repeated over time, although that's cool. It has to be consistent. And the reason for that is people come to see that about you. They come to have an expectation of belief in you, that you are good when you give your word, because they see your consistent action. Now, the interesting thing about consistency doesn't always mean positive. If you eat 5 Twinkies a day, every day for a year, you will succeed in gaining weight. You will succeed in rotting your teeth. You will succeed in having health issues. Why? Because that's a lot of sweetness. That's a lot of starch. That's a lot of just pointless gunk. Delicious, maybe, once every so often. But if you consistently do that to yourself, then you will guarantee that you will tear your health and your looks down. On the other hand, if you consistently tell yourself that at least one meal, I'm going to do the good thing, and you do that every day, then you are building a habit of responsibility. You are building a habit of good health, good nutrition, good balance in all the things you eat. If you decide you never want to clean your house and you only do it when you invite people over twice a year, you live in a situation where dust and allergens and mold build up. And then when you do clean, you have to work 5 times as hard, 10 times as hard. If you do a little bit every day, or you do a little bit every week, and you set aside one day, maybe every 10 days, to clean that room, and then on a next day, that room, so that it's manageable and it doesn't make you want to lie on the floor and sob brokenly, what you end up with is consistent management of your space. At the end of a year, you are living in a place that when people drop by unexpectedly, you say, come on in. Don't mind the pile of stuff in the corner. I never sit facing that. And it works because we create a succession of habits that allow us to own the space we're in. When we are often, and Charles and I have talked about this a lot, when we are often in a place where we have no control over anything, it can feel terrifying. It can feel insulting. It can feel frustrating. We can feel overwhelmed. We can feel defensive. We can feel afraid if we have no control, because that good old-fashioned subconscious brain assumes that if our tribe isn't in control, it's not going to go well. So how do we change that? We change it incrementally, consistently, by taking control of the things we can. And calling those the simple wins. Spike the ball. I achieved something yesterday. I defeated bureaucracy. I was staring at an issue that had plagued me for months. And all of a sudden, I said to myself, oh, well, you know what? All I have to do is this. All I have to do is convince one person to do this for me. And I know exactly who that person needs to be. Alrighty then. And I marshaled my presentation. And it wasn't about this that you need to help me with. It was this situation, which is ridiculous. And she agreed. Oh my God, I hate it when that happens. And I said, I know. So here's the thing. Is it possible for you to do this for me? I can't see any reason why not. I don't mean why you shouldn't, but I can't see any reason why it would be wrong. And she looked at me and she said, yeah, I agree. Let me see what I can do. She went away. She came back and she said, yeah, here, let's do this. She did it. I said, can you get somebody to sign that? She said, absolutely. Went away, came back. Here you go. And I marched across to a notary where they stamp something that looks official. And I said, can you just stamp that for me? Sure. Bonk. I said, would you like some money? Yeah, give me $5. $5. I didn't go to a lawyer. I went to a guy who charges $5. This would be 2 thumbs up from mom and me. And I felt so amazing about that it influenced, it shaded, it changed, transformed every other thing I had to deal with yesterday. I slept differently last night. Why? Because I used a consistent method that I always apply. And I'm going to tell you what it is, because it's the secret to what I want to do next with these videos, with our videos, starting Thursday. Okay, here it is. I'm able to do these things. I'm able to take on character roles. I'm able to interview people and talk about things like fame and pivotry and write books that people love to read and do videos that people have fun watching. Why? Because I'm a profiler. Because my ability, stop, Charles. Charles has found a mom glove thumbs up emoji. Awesome. Here's what I know how to do. I know how to read people. I know how to listen to them. I know how to ask questions. I know how to connect the dots logically and emotionally. I know how to suggest that given the way they do this and this and this, do you think it's possible that this is why you're angry or confused or unhappy? Do you think that if you look instead of at this, but also this, because this is really your superpower, we could turn all that around exponentially? And with a little practice, you could lean into this instead of that, and that becomes your new consistency. And that becomes your pivotry. That becomes the change you own. That becomes the way you thrive in the worlds that raise you. And over and over and over again, people have said, oh, that doesn't sound, I don't know how. And then I do it. And they say, oh my God. And I say, okay, let's work on it. So this isn't therapy, what I do. And by the way, it's not all serious. It's a lot of fun because laughter allows us to accept new ideas more easily. What I want to do in these videos, leaning in, leading into them, is I want to pose a challenge. And the challenge is, do you trust me to ask me a question about things that seem to consistently get in your way? If you trust me enough to ask me, I will walk you through the why. I will ask the questions I need to ask. We'll use these live comments over here. We can message each other. We can set it up on Facebook. And what these become more deliberately, more consistently, are conversations where you've asked me to show you something, and I'm doing my best to deliver. It's kind of like Dear Abby. If you're old enough to remember Dear Abby, she was quite a phenomenon in her day. People used to write into her in the newspaper. It was Dear Abby or Ann Landers, and they were advice columns. This isn't advice. This is profiling. This is showing you where your best selves live. This is everything about pivotry that is going to be in the 7th book, the how-to, only I'm going to do it with you here on YouTube. I'm going to do my other stuff too, but part of the video is going to be you choosing to trust me to reveal your superpower to you. Are you excited? I think it's going to be awesome. I'm probably going to need to ask a couple of people to volunteer so that other people can see what it's like. And I may reach out to, I actually just did it with one of my friends, and I may, with his permission, just reiterate what we talked about without the specific details. And we don't need specific, it was at 10 o'clock on Thursday and I live in Wyoming. It doesn't need to be that. This is the human aspect of us. So what I want to do is get all of you on board with me, in the boat with me, consistently ready. And then we don't have to resist change. We don't have to dig our heels in. We don't have to say, you can't make me. You're not the boss of me. Because we are the boss of us. I hope you love this. I also hope, just so you know, we're at 100. I would not read newspaper that didn't have Dear Abby. Ah, there we go, Charles. That explains so much about you, actually. Profiling. What I want to say before we go is we now have 172 subscribers. So it looks like if you keep telling your friends, it's entirely possible that we will not only have 175 by Christmas, we might even have 200 if we really get a push on. And that would be incredible. So that's what I'm kind of putting out there into the universe. So I have to run. I have to do another bunch of crazy errands. Until I see you on Thursday, be good to you. Tell your friends about this. Tell your friends that I'm going to be giving free advice, and I'm good at it. Life advice on how to be amazing. Because it's not changing. It's figuring out where your amazing lives. It's already there. We just have to bring it into the sunlight. Okay? So be good to you. Tell your friends and hug your loved ones. And I will see you very soon. Thank you so much for being part of this for this first year. Happy anniversary, everyone. See you soon.